Hey, self care warriors, welcome back to Self Care Haven. I am so excited to be speaking with you again. And this video is going to be about radical acts of self care. Now, what do I mean by a radical act of self care? I mean that it is an action that you take despite what people think of you or expect of you. And it's an action that prioritizes your self care, your self love, and makes absolutely no excuses because it's self care and it's not considered selfish, or at least you don't judge yourself for finally taking care of you instead of everybody else. Now, for fellow people pleasers, this might be a very difficult act to conduct in your daily life, but I promise you, if you start small, you can eventually move on to bigger acts of radical self care that change and transform your life forever. And so, some examples that I would give for smaller acts of radical self-care would be taking an hour to yourself where you do not answer any phone calls, any emails. Um, you don't do what is expected of you in the sense that you are just unavailable to anybody for at least 1 hour. And this is time that you take for yourself. It's an hour that you take to meditate, uh, to get some errands done, to get some writing done, some journaling, to do your own kind of inner work, to get back to things, the little things that you enjoy. It could be anything that just relaxes you, that goes back to some relaxation time that you don't really normally get in this chaotic, hectic, busy life that you lead. And that could be a small act of self care that you incorporate into your daily routine. It could be into your weekly routine, depending on the type of hectic lifestyle you lead. But it's something very small that still makes a huge impact because imagine that 1 hour to yourself, answering no phone calls, no texts, having really no communication with the outside world, just focusing on whether it could be a small hobby, an errand that you run by yourself. It could be some journaling that you could be doing, some meditation work, um, positive affirmation work, whatever type of inner work that you engage in. You take that hour and you use it all on yourself, and you use it to prioritize your own self care, and you make no excuses for that. So that's one example of a small act of self care, radical self care that you can start engaging in right now after you watch this video if you'd like. And a bigger act of radical self care that I would want to mention is exiting that toxic situation. So whether it's a friendship, a relationship, a familial relationship with a toxic family member, or it could be a toxic work environment, you basically plan an exit strategy and you keep your promise to yourself and you exit that toxic situation because you realize your value, you recognize your worth, and you realize that you are so much better than this situation and that you are worth more than this situation, and this situation is diminishing your sense of self-worth and your value, and it is undeserving of you. And that's such a big act of radical self-care. So you really have to start small and start with the smaller acts, usually, of radical self-care before you move on to these bigger actions. Um, However, I encourage you to dabble in both, experiment this week, and see what you can come up with. Be creative with your radical acts of self care. Start small and move on to bigger things. Again, these small actions can really add up and they can help you recognize your value, help you recognize your self worth. Take time for yourself to take care of you and make no excuses. Stop saying I'm sorry, stop apologizing, stop acting as if what society expects of you is much bigger than your inner guidance, because we all know that when we don't follow our intuition and we stay in a toxic situation for way too long, all we do is regret the fact that we never listened to our intuition, regret the fact that we didn't leave that situation sooner. And so, really, really take that time to focus on your own happiness. What would make you happy tonight, tomorrow, the next week? What would make you happy? ask that radical question: what's going to make me happy in this situation? What is best for me in this situation? If I truly and wholeheartedly loved myself, what would I really do in this type of situation? Whatever it might be, it could be, again, any type of situation, whether it's interacting with one person or a whole group of people. Um, it's really, really about prioritizing you for once and saying no to people pleasing. So I'm really excited to hear about your own ideas of what radical self care might look for you. So if you could just leave me a comment below on what you chose as your radical act of self care for this week or for today, or something that you've been engaging in as a lifelong practice, please let me know in the comments below. Share with the other readers and communicate with each other, and really encourage each other to continue with these radical acts of self care, because even the smallest act of self care can build up to something even bigger. And before you know it, you could be exiting a toxic situation and moving on to a happier life and an experience that is truly worthy of you and your value. And I would say that one of the most radical acts of self care that anybody can make is to know their own value, know it, believe it, own it, and live it. So I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are looking forward to the holidays. Enjoy your holiday break. Spend time with the people that matter most to you, and spend time with yourself because you matter the most as well. So until then, until I talk to you again, I wish you happy holidays, and I hope that you are taking care of yourselves and really thinking about the radical way of engaging in more self care and moving on to a healthier you for the new year. Until then, take care.